Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, or good morning, or good whatever time it is, wherever you are. I'll tell you exactly what time it is here. It's beer o'clock. Cheers, everyone. How the devil you doing? Oh, if we consider that a week is a period of 7 days from end to end, then assuming today's is the start of another week, then that's the first of the week. Should have been an accountant, really, shouldn't I? Being able to fiddle the figures like that, but there you go. Yes, as is the custom, let's take a look and see who is in and who was first in and everything. I see Rob Bald was first in. And then we got Mark Kerno, Rent to Kill, Peter Nicholson, Dave Fiendish, and we got Terry Day, Johnny Random's there, and so is Ian Clark. Anton is another early riser in there, and there's Edwin Toonan as well. We got Sean House coming at the chat there, and Cylon Hybrid, who is repairing his Dyson vacuum. With two Akitas both shedding much. Yes, I think you saying a B will be much needed at 5. Yes, that's the thing about going off on a bit of a tangent. Vacuum cleaners. We've had our current one about 2-3 years now, and it's on its last legs. You know, my granny had the same vacuum cleaner. You know, from when I was, I don't know, 5 or thereabouts, a toddler, till the day she died. You know, I don't know what the state. Nothing's built to last anymore, is it? Anyway, then we've got Marvellous Bloke and Steve Entwistle. How are you, mate? Michael Palmer is there. Nice to see you. And Dr. Gomez 1 is in. And who else have we got? We have got Phil and Ben Allmark. And Paul Trainer, BSC, no less. Gordo Canuck is in, and then we've got David Evans, kind of following hot on the heels. Deco Dude is in, and so is Theme Tunes, and let's see, also we've got Calby and the Rocco Cat. Oh, dear me, you've had a bit of misfortune there, mate. Just lost his wallet with all ID and bank cards in it. I'm off to get my life back. Wish me well by missing the first beer stream. AB after Blondie. Indeed. More on that later. Hope you get it all sorted anyway, mate. Then scrolling down, we got David James and John Channing. And we have got Nancy Davis, and there's Farjohn as well, hot on the heels. David Mitchell, Andy Nisbet, the Essex Cat, Peter Borthwick, Peter S., Colin Falcon, local lad, just round the corner from me, he's in. We got 60s Man and The Time Prophet. And who else? We've got Graham Campbell. Pablo Hank is in. So is Cal Texper, I beg your pardon. Stuart Young, Morris Kilday, Adam San. And let's scroll down a bit further. We got On Road again, Bill Mumbo, James Severin, Steve Cassidy Guitar, how are you? Then we got Glenn John and Jag Records. Stefan is in. Is that Stefan Goodmanson? I hope I've pronounced that correctly. We've got Pete. I believe that will be Pete Benoit. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Chris Smith is in, so's Mark Greening, Ian Stewart, and Pete Shepherd. There's Curtis Lee, Nathan, Barry Hoon, and Avon Gaunt. There's Stephen Hedger, and who else we got? We got Michael saying, yes, indeed, rest in peace, Randy Meisner. I read that in the paper this morning, immediately dialed up Take It to the Limit on Spotify. That was pretty much his signature song, wasn't it, really? Then I see we've got Maria Davies, or is it never quite sure, is it Davies or Davis? Some people insist on one pronunciation, others on the other. Then we've got Nigel Arthur, Frederick Bruno, or is that Frederic? I see a French is here. Then there's the Lamb, Thomas Mulvaney, and Michael Belliveau, Ron Wells, Cy Rollinson. What are you saying there? Our 20, Steve saying, our 20-year-old fridge freezer just packed in this week. Had to bin loads of goodies. Yes, that's it, isn't it? We're due a new freezer, actually. All the kind of pull-out drawers that you get, most of those are held together with gaffer tape in ours. Pete Benoit, correct way to say my name. Well, I'm glad I got it right, mate. Then we've got guitar in is what we saying here, mate? Guitar in July. I do apologise. Blame it my thick, numbskull northern pronunciation for that. And we got Jack Collins in. Nice to see you, mate. Saying hello from Louisiana. Okay, right. That's the roll call over with. I do apologise if I missed your name. As I always say, if I was to do nothing but kind of read through the chat, it would make for a rather dull live stream, wouldn't it? But everyone is welcome. And I've got a little list here because I'm organised this week for a change. David Evans is saying the gaffer tape comes off in the freezer, though, doesn't it? No, not if you buy the right one. If you buy decent, I'm not sponsored by anybody. But not anymore, at least anyway. But if you buy the Gorilla gaffer tape, that usually has a pretty good grab on it. Anyway, what's coming up on the channel this week? Well, no Saturday video this week. I got into trouble for the last one. I'm not doing that again for a while. So yeah, Sunday it's a bit of a telecast. It's all about the Telecaster. I've done several shootouts a couple of shootouts between this rather gorgeous Fender Nashville Telecaster. Thank you, Joe. A very, very generous gift from one of my students and a guy who I like to think of as a good friend as well. He's called Joe, and he bought me this guitar a few years ago. Just because. What a lovely thing to do. Anyway, you've seen a couple of times where I've shot it out against the green Telecaster on the back wall, on that kind of side wall there. The Paisley, I did two kind of comparisons between that Fender and that guitar. One when it had the original stock pickups in, and another one when it had the replacement tone riders in. Time Prophet saying don't drink and record videos. So this week on Sunday it's a shootout between the Fender, let's have another look at it, and the Ert on the back wall there. It just seemed such an obvious comparison that I hadn't yet done, so that's that box ticked. That is Sunday's video. Then on Monday, we're keeping the Telecaster theme going strong because we're looking at the absolute master of rhythm and lead guitar played simultaneously. I am, of course, talking about none other than Mr. Wilco Johnson. I've done a couple of his solos in the past. I think, have I done two of his? Or have I only done one? I know I certainly did Ice on the Motorway from that Roger Daltrey collaboration album he did. And I did like a tribute piece to him after he passed away called, what was it called? The Canvey Island Stomp. But I thought I'd take a look at a good old classic feel-good solo. So on Monday, we're having a look at the solo from She Does It Right. Then Tuesday's video is very much inspired by a certain gentleman in the chat. I don't know if he hasn't turned up yet, I don't know, but a gentleman of this parish, Mr. Dave Lewis. And, he emailed me ages ago, a couple of months ago now, asking about a certain particular guitar riff that he was having problems with. So that inspired me to do a video, a top 5 video on tricky riffs. What are the tricky riffs? The ones that people struggle with. And hopefully in that video I show you how to play them with as much ease as is possible. And in one case I show you how to cheat if you need to as well. So that is Tuesday's video. Then Wednesday's video is all about viewers' questions, as you know. So this week is no exception. We are looking at the sometimes troubling question of open tunings. What are they? How do you use them? What are they used for? And, you know, what's the deal with them, basically? And I think, what do I do in that video? I think I do Open D, Open G, and Dadgad. I think I do 3. Certainly Dadgad is in there. So that is, as I say, Wednesday's video. Then on Thursday, sort of another response video, really, to a question that I've had, not from a viewer, but this time from a student of mine who lives in shared accommodation, you know, and has something of a problem with volume. He wants to get a big guitar sound, but he can't make a lot of noise. So it's all about how you get a big guitar sound at low volumes. Obviously, this is going to be looking at the topic of recording onto a PC and, you know, plugins and stuff like that. So that is Thursday's video. And, well, on Friday, you know what happens. We're back on the beer. Oh, dear me, that's good. In case anybody's interested, tonight it's the 1664. For some reason, I can't get my hands on any Heineken at the moment, which is much to the, you know, the disappointment of a certain Dutch gentleman in the chat, Mr. Toonen. You know who you are. What you're saying there, Time Profit, tell them to get a Pod Go and use earphones. Yeah, okay, well, that's one way of doing it. It's not the way I'm recommending, but that would work. Anyway, there is something of an elephant in the room that I guess we need to address. The matter of my now ex-signature model guitar. Many of you possibly saw the video that went out last Saturday and then got taken down. The reason it got taken down is something I will come to. As you will appreciate, as I'm kind of telling this little tale, I have to be quite fleet of foot and, you know, kind of sketchy about what went on for reasons that will become apparent. But basically, the relationship between myself and Dan, who built my signature model guitar, has irretrievably broken down. He, no doubt, would cast me as the villain of the piece, but, you know, I'm not sure I would reciprocate that emotion, to be honest. You know, I bear him no ill will. What happened was, a couple of weeks ago, I had a conversation with him, a private conversation via telephone, expressing certain concerns about how things were going. And to my surprise, I thought that was going to be a difficult conversation, but it wasn't. You know, he agreed with me that, yeah, it's probably time to knock it on the head, call time on it. I don't think it had worked out as either of us had hoped or expected. So I made a video explaining the situation as tactfully and as respectfully as I could. You know, I was very careful to word it in a way that I think didn't break any confidences or say anything that wasn't already out there in the public domain in terms of, you know, what the relationship was between me and Dan. And anyway, Dan reacted, well, his reaction was, let's say, not positive. I got a text message from him demanding that I take the video down, or he was going to seek legal advice. And, well, what do we know about potential legal proceedings? Expensive, time-consuming, and unpleasant. And for those reasons, and those reasons alone, I took the video down. And there we are, basically. That is pretty much the situation. The project wasn't going as either of us had hoped. We agreed to call it a day. That was an amicable decision, you know, and then the same concerns that I'd expressed in that phone call were put out there in the video, and it didn't go down well. And this is where we're at now. So aside from a few videos, a handful of videos that I'd already made before this all blew up, there will be no more appearances of that guitar on this channel. The instrument formerly known as Blondie. It's done, basically. The reason for that is, well, twofold. You know, I get a lot of pleasure from playing the guitar. I love playing this guitar. This guitar that was very generously given to me as a gift, and there's a couple of other guitars in here given to me as gifts. The black Harley Benton P90 guitar in the corner there, that was a gift. There's a beautiful little parts caster up on this wall here that you can't see, that was given to me, and you know, those are guitars that I will treasure. You know, but I get no more pleasure, I get no joy, I get no enjoyment, no fizz from playing that X signature model guitar anymore. If anything, I get the opposite. It tends to put me on a little bit of a downer. So for that reason, and the reason that I have some costs to recoup, that signature model guitar is for sale. If you are interested, if it's a guitar that you would like to add to your collection or just own, then you know what to do. Get in touch, jrguitartuition@gmail.com. You know, it's not, it causes me no sadness to be calling time on this. If anything, it is something of a relief. And that is where we're at with it, and we shall speak of it no more. And now let's focus on something positive. Let's see what we've got going on in the chat. Let's have a look. Something non-signature model related. Oh, I see we've got Malcolm Spillett in. How are you, mate? How's it going? Nice to see you in. Hope. Yeah, a lot of people kind of commenting on what I've just been talking about, but I'm not going to go into that. As I say, it's, you know, it's done. It's that chapter is closed. Where are we? Yeah, okay. So I'll let that sink in, and you can digest it a little bit. I'm just going to finish my beer off and pour another one, because I think after getting that off my chest, I've earned it. Just a reminder, by the way, that you know, time is marching on, and it is getting, you know, we're almost into August, and then there's only 1 month, September, standing between us and a certain little gathering that we're having, to which everyone is cordially invited if you can make it up here to Redcar on October the 6th. Nothing special. It's not going to be, you know, some kind of gear fest or anything like that. More of a beer fest, really. We're just going to kind of meet up in person. We did it once before, a couple of years ago, and it was a massive amount of fun. October the 6th, it's a Friday night, so there will be no live stream that night. Friday, October the 6th, we're all meeting up in Redcar, and we're going for a few beers, probably a few more than a few, and a sit down at the local Bengal Spice Curry restaurant, and we're going to have a good time. So quite a few people have confirmed that they are coming, and what I'm going to do, just a little bit closer to the actual date itself, I'll put out a final sort of roll call, as it were, so I definitely know how big a table to book at the restaurant. And I'm afraid I can't offer you all accommodation, but Redcar is awash with very affordable bed and breakfast accommodation. There are a lot of contractors working here, and there's lots of accommodation that is reasonably priced. Let's face it, you only need somewhere to crash after a belly full of beer and a curry, don't you? I will, however, be putting a chunk of money behind the bar, so we can, so you can all have at least, one round of drinks on me. And it's just, I'm really, really touched that so many people are, prepared to just put their lives on hold for for that little while and travel, in some cases a very long way. To come and have a beer in person with me. It's very humbling, and it's really nice. Thank you. Let's have a look, see what else we got in the chat. Malcolm Spillett. I picked up a black Strat complete with Gilmore mod and found some settings on my Boss guitar that give me a great sound, a bit similar to Mr. Gilmore's sound. Good for you, mate. Gordo Canuck is saying, why don't you stream the get-together? All sorts of... I did briefly look into that in the past, but live streaming from a public place, you run into all kinds of... you run into certain privacy issues, shall we say. It's not 100% legit whether it's allowed or not, depending upon how you do it. And it means, frankly, who would sit and watch a 4 or 5 hour YouTube live stream of other people kind of chatting and getting drunk? It sounds like a good idea in principle, but it's like, it would be just like watching, I guess, kind of surveillance footage. It's basically we're having. I think I've missed since 2020. I think I've missed a maximum of 3 live streams. There's a couple where the technology has let me down, and YouTube just kind of collapsed in a puddle of its own sweat, and the live stream just kind of died. It started off buffering and then just died. A couple of times that's happened. Then once my dog was in the doggy hospital, not the current dog, not Dougal, he's in fine fettle, but our previous dog Taylor, he had pancreatitis and he was in the kind of emergency vet hospital, and it was touch and go whether we were going to lose him that day. So I didn't do the live stream that Friday. That'll have been, I think it was May 2020. Very early on in this process. And the other one that I missed was the last time we had this kind of boozy get-together back in 2021. So, thank you, Deco Dude. Thank you, mate. We love you, man. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. On Road Again is saying, hi John, how can you make it as a guitarist these days? In terms of percentage, how much of your income do you get from courses, Patreon, one-to-one lessons, if you don't mind? Thanks for your work. Do you know what? I've never really sat down and broken it down like that, but it adds up to a number of things work in my favor. Okay, a number of things work in my favor. First of all, I'm 56 years old and I have never, ever passed a driving test. I know, I just can't do it. I just can't get my head round operating this piece of machinery called an automobile. It baffles me. And, I have this little voice in the back of my head all the time saying, you are in charge of a ton of metal with a million different kind of high-speed whizzing parts about 6 inches from your knees, and a tank full of one of the most flammable kind of volatile substances known to mankind, just behind you. And, it kind of puts me on edge a little bit. And I don't, that coupled with, you know, the driving instructor saying, look at the curb. I can't see the bloody curb. There's a bloody car in the way. So I don't drive. And I've got to the period of life where I've structured my life in a way that doesn't require a car. So what I'm saying is I don't have the overhead of keeping a car on the road. Our mortgage is, well, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we bought this house in 1998, you know, and, you know, it's almost paid off. So we don't have a huge mortgage to deal with. We live in a part of the world which has, you know, is typically a sort of a low-income part of the country, and that means the cost of living isn't the same here as it would be in a big metropolitan city. So all of these things work in my favour, and the courses and the YouTube income and the lessons and the Patreon all add up to, you know, the bills being paid every month. You know, I was very, very lucky that when I started doing this, my wife was earning a very good wage, and I could, you know, we didn't have to live off this kind of money. This was, when did I start doing YouTube? Back in 2008. You know, the financial crash and all of that sort of stuff happened back then. And, you know, my wife was in a pretty good job, you know, earning decent money, and I was earning a pittance from just maybe half a dozen lessons a week and no monetized YouTube channel, and but you know, she's pretty much now retired, and this has kind of taken off to the point where now, you know, we're sort of in a pretty good place, really. You know, and you know, as I say, the bills are paid, and there's a little bit left in the bank every month. And every now and again, you know, she can my wife has this little kind of side hustle now that she does, where she makes her own jewellery. If you're interested, by the way, go and check out Doghouse Designs on Facebook. It's called The Doghouse Designs. There's a few kind of different doghouse designs. Go and search Facebook for The Doghouse Designs, and you'll see all the kind of gorgeous jewellery that she makes. And, you know, she's been out on the market today selling stuff, and had a really good day. So, you know, it's self-employment. You know, you never know. You don't have like that security of knowing how much is going to be getting paid into the bank on a certain date every month. But, you know, I'm used to that. I've been self-employed since 1992. So, you know, let's have a look. Jeff Rock is saying, I have to disagree, John. One of my favourite live streams is Pete Thorne, Dave Freeman, John Sir sitting around for hours talking gear and getting bladdered. Yes, I get what you're saying, but you know, it's one thing if you've got a bunch of people, you know, kind of in a situation like this where you've got a nice camera and the shots all lined up and you're having a few beers. And me and Bottleneck Bob did a live stream like this a couple of years ago, and that's one thing. But when you're in, you know, a kind of noisy environment and you're relying on a smartphone, and, you know, I don't think it would make for good viewing. So, oh, Ian Clark, you're late, mate. Yeah, only just arrived. What have I missed? Not a great deal, mate. It's just me talking absolute cobblers for half an hour, as is usual. I've got another half an hour to go. Let's have a look, see what else we've got to talk about. Avron gone to saying, Jesus, I hadn't thought of that. That's it, no more driving for me. Yes, all of the kind of anxiety that I get. Curiously, I don't get that when I'm a passenger. It doesn't bother me when I'm a passenger, but it does when I've got this big round thing in front of me. And the other curious thing is, you know, a lot of my favourite TV shows are car-related. Work that one out. Yeah. Salvage Hunters, Classic Cars, Wheeler Dealers, Grand Tour, Top Gear. You know, these are the kind of TV shows that I watch. A lot of the time, I don't understand a word of what they're talking about, but, you know, it's entertaining for some reason. Let's have a look, see what else we got. Peter Shields says, I always say I'm an unemployed artist. Oh, dear me, mate. Sorry to hear that. You do good caricatures, though. As you can see from the thumbnail of all my videos. Craig Stamen's in. How are you, mate? Let's have a look, see if there's any other late arrivals. Jay How Young, how are you, mate? Saying, thought you mentioned that you ride motorcycles, though, perhaps a case of mistaken identity. Yeah, I was absolutely mad keen on motorbikes when I was a kid. When I was 10 years old, like, I guess the big kind of celebrity sportsman of the day in 1977 was Barry Sheen. You know, and I had posters of Barry Sheen on my wall. I had, I think an Airfix model that I made of Barry Sheen on his motorbike. Kind of going around a corner. Certainly one of those might not have been Airfix, but it was certainly that kind of thing. And I was absolutely obsessed with motorbikes. And do you know what put me off? Getting on a motorbike. I thought, no, this is scary. It suddenly dawned on me that there was tarmac there, and I was going at a ridiculously fast speed, probably like, I don't know, about 25 miles an hour, but it felt like I was kind of rivaling Concorde. And it was all kind of blurring and kind of whizzing past, and the only thing between me and that tarmac was my shirt. And I just kind of thought, no, okay, that's cured me of motorbikes. And my next obsession that I got into, because you do get into these kind of things when you're kind of 9-10 years old, was I think chess. I was, I got into chess for some reason, and then the one after that was at 11 years old was this. So yeah, I rode I was a passenger on a motorbike when I was about 10 years old, and that kind of put me off motorbikes. And then after motorbikes, it was chess, and then after chess, it was guitars. I think with the chess thing, I think it was because I wanted to hang around in the school library. Maybe because it was just somewhere to get out of the cold on a lunchtime. And then the guitar thing was probably I wanted to hang around in the school music room on a lunchtime to get out of the cold. Craig Stamen is saying, I love driving, plus I need to drive for my job being an estate agent. Well, good for you, mate. I'm not one of these. There is a certain type of person, isn't there, these days that says, kind of tries to be all virtuous about the fact, oh, I don't drive, I'm doing my bit for Johnny Polar Bear. Well, good for you, fair enough. But I'm not of that ilk. It's just something that I've never been able to kind of get my head round doing. And it's, I've now got to a point in my life where it's, I don't need to. That said, lottery win. Okay, lottery win. I mean, what are you going to do when you win the lottery? Well, first of all, I'm going to get wasted for a month. Why wouldn't you? But after that, I'm going to buy loads of guitars. But the other thing I'm going to do is, listen to me talking what I'm going to do. I haven't even put the lottery on in a few weeks. I am somehow going to get through a driving test by hook or by crook. And I'm going to buy a motorhome that is big enough to be comfortable, yet small enough to be practical on the kind of little country roads that we have in the UK. And me and the missus and the dog, we're just going to go walk about. We're just going to kind of take off, and every kind of junction we come to, flip a coin, left or right, and see where we go. Chances are we'd end up back at our own front door, wouldn't we? You flip the coin the same way too many times. But John Robson would buy a Rolls only buy a Rolls Royce so that you drive it into a guitar-shaped swimming pool. Well, there is a certain kind of thing there, isn't there? Steve Cassidy is saying, keep the channel going a la Dylan Talks Tone in his motorhome. Yeah, I watched a few of those. He's a good lad, isn't he? Let's have a look. Nancy Davies is saying, over 60s free bus pass, the gift that keeps on giving. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I haven't travelled by bus in years, mainly because, again, that's another good thing about where I live here in Redcar. Everything, literally everything you need is within walking distance. We've got an Asda, a Tesco, a Morrison's, an Aldi, all pretty much within walking distance. So you never have to, you can get your groceries. You should see me coming back from a grocery shop. I've got one of those kind of old lady trolleys, the ones that you pull behind you. I've got that stuffed to the brim. I've got a carrier bag in the other hand, and I've got a big kind of rucksack on my back. I'm laden down like a pack mule, So, all of that's within walking distance. We've got all of the kind of amenities, like me bank is on the high street. We've got a reasonably good post office, and everything that you need in it to kind of function is within, like, at the most a 20-minute walk from my front door. So, again, I don't need a car for that. Anton is saying, but you got no Heineken in Redcar though, John. Just saying. Yeah, well, at the moment, this week we got our groceries delivered, and we ordered Heineken on the Asda order, but it was substituted yet again for the Kronenberg 1664. I've just noticed I've got some super chats there, so let's just see those. Edwin Toonan, thank you, mate. Thank you so much. You're a gentleman, sir. And there's Anton with a £5. You are an absolute gent, sir. And Colm, that is very generous of you, mate. Thank you so much. Anyway, let's have a look. Mark Kerno is saying, just picked up a 23-year-old Seagull S6 on eBay. I've fallen in love with it. Only just brought the news to the missus that I'm awaiting a Harley Benton SC 552 from Toman. Yeah, don't hold your breath from Toman at the moment, mate. I ordered a guitar from there last Thursday, like a week yesterday, and it's still in transit. I've got a horrible, horrible suspicion that DHL, i.e. Drop It, Hide It, Lose It, have lived up to their name once again. It's with them, and it's not on their system, apparently. So we shall see. It's a Harley Benton Fusion T twin humbucker fixed bridge guitar, and it was 195 quid. Now, on Toman, when you see like the alternatives to, kind of variations on this product, you look at some of them and there's a couple that are like 220 quid, but there's some that are like, okay, it comes with a gig bag and a lanyard, the anniversary ones, that are like nearly 400 quid. So this is like half price. And it does bear a striking resemblance to another guitar. So anyway, Lee said about that the better. Jeff Rock is saying, lottery win for me, sex, drugs and rock and roll, and I'll probably waste the rest. I've probably told this story before, but it's apt for this. In case you haven't heard it, we have a game show in the UK called Pointless. I won't bother explaining the rules of the game show to those who haven't seen it, but basically there's a jackpot that accumulates if nobody wins it. And there was this big Geordie lad, big northeast lad from Newcastle, big lad, beard, long hair, looked like a Sasquatch, he did. And drummer in a metal band. And you could tell that just from looking at him. You didn't need him to tell you that. And the host of the show kind of gets, he wins the jackpot basically. And the host of the show says to him, so what are you going to do with your winnings? And most people say, oh, I'm going to treat the grandchildren. Oh, I'm going to take, the whole family on a holiday, and this guy just said, what are you going to do with what are you going to spend your winnings on? And he says, beer, heavy metal, and loose women, which I thought was brilliant. I was just like, yeah, that's the kind of honesty I like. Let's have a look. Randy Upchurch is saying, I'm broke, sir, but much love from Southern Illinois. Peace. Well, I hope your fortunes turn around soon, mate. Yeah, Steve, I saw your review of the lanyard. I think that's probably unique. I don't think anybody's ever reviewed a lanyard before. Let's have a look. Let's see what we got. Brad Dowell is saying, I'm after a practice amp for the house just as a back of my JCM 2000. What would you recommend? You would have to go a long way. I've had a few practice amps. And, I mean, as long as you're prepared to deal with the reliability issues, the Marshall DSL-1 is a good choice. Mine's currently dead, and I still haven't looked into getting it fixed because I'm more than happy with the Blue Guitar Amp 1. But the Marshall DSL-1 is a good, honest kind of, Marshall kind of valve tone, if that's what you're into. If you want something a little bit more versatile, the Spark is okay. I had some fun with that amp. But looking back with rose-tinted spectacles, I think my favourite practice amp that I ever had was the Yamaha THR, is it 5? I can't, T something, THR 5, I think it was. That was a great little amp. Versatile, great sound, big sound as well. That was a really good little amp, and it's a Yamaha. It'll work underwater basically. Craig Stamen is saying, I was on Bax Music website and saw they have a scalloped fretboard. Where are we? It's gone up in the chat. Scalloped fretboard Strat for 159. I'm definitely getting that on payday. I think I had a Jackson at some point in the early 90s when I was still kind of thinking, I'll find a guitar with a locking trem that works for me. I never did. A Jackson in the early 90s that was scalloped from about the 15th fret up. And I don't know. I can't really remember forming an opinion about it. But an entirely scalloped fretboard, I don't think I've ever played. Let's have a look. Raymondo is saying, "What did you do with the Yamaha THR 5?" Yeah, I was seduced into. At the time I had it, everybody was going, "Oh, you need the Spark. The Spark is fantastic. Get yourself a Spark." And I caved in basically and got the Spark, and it was as good as the Yamaha, but a lot more fiddly to use. I would say it had a little bit more of a fuller sound, but it was more of a faff about to use, because you've got to use an app to get the most out of it. Then I traded the Spark for a Moore, something or other, modelling amp. That was a great little amp, and then that went, and I got the Marshall. But yeah, the Yamaha was, in terms of like unobtrusive size and everything, it's a desktop amp. It used to sit on the top of the desk here, and it was a great little amp, and it used to be good for recording as well. What I liked about that amp particularly, and you didn't get this with the Spark, was that the sound that came out of the speaker was the sound that recorded. I had briefly had a dalliance with a Katana as well, and that was the problem I had with that, and other people have mentioned this to me as well, is that with a Katana you dial in the sound that you want, and it sounds great in the room, but you record it via USB because it acts as an interface as well, and that's not the sound that you get recorded. It certainly wasn't in my experience. but yeah, in terms of just all round, kind of features, value for money, kind of like, the way Glenn Fricker does it, various categories that he scores things out of. I would say that the THR5 was probably the best practice amp I had. But the thing is, all I ever do with any amp is think, right, how do I make this sound like a Marshall? Turn all the dials to that setting, tape them down, and forget it, because I like Marshalls. It's that old joke, isn't it? When a guitar player says, "I'm a Marshall man," what he's really saying is, "I'm a noisy bugger." The Lamb, you have hit on a great point there, mate. Never understood why the Katana is stereo internally, but can only output one mono channel. That was my big beef with the Spark, actually. It was, all of the effects. It was a stereo amp, but all of the effects were mono. So what I used to have to do was I used to have to put like stereo widening on it when I was recording something if I wanted stereo effects. So it's like, why would you build a stereo amp but make the guitar only come out in mono? And the thing on the Spark was all of the extra bells and whistles, like it'll create jam tracks where it'll create a backing band. Well, no, it won't. Not properly. If you're strumming A, D, and E, it'll probably keep up with you okay. But if you put like a minor seventh in, or a ninth chord or something like that, the kind of things that, let's face it, many players, blues is a popular genre of music, and blues contains some some chords that aren't just straight majors and minors, and you need to change chords halfway through a bar and stuff. The Spark just couldn't kind of handle that sort of thing when it was kind of, okay, I'll listen to what you play and create a backing track. It just didn't. Deco Dude is saying, just put dual pots mod on a single humbucker telly. Wow, good for you, mate. Yeah. Is that so you've got independent control over each pickups? Let's hope. Michael Purcell is saying, could you get a stereo adapter or interface? Possibly, but the problem with if you're referring to the Spark there, the problem with the Spark was that, because it worked as like a Bluetooth speaker as well, and it gave you a stereo sound from, any music that you were playing through it. But your guitar sound was in mono. I don't know. Timidator, what you saying there, mate? Did you ever try a monoprice 15 watt? I love mine. I didn't, mate. A 15 watt amp in this room, it's only a small room, would be, quite the thing, really. It would be, I almost pulled the trigger on the Harley Benton Tube 15 amp, which is basically the same amp, I'm reliably informed, just badged differently. But that Marshall DSL-1 was loud in this room. It was that was a loud amp. So a 15 watt amp in this room would have been, considerably louder when you're kind of cranking it to get that sort of power amp drive. That is, let's face it, the reason why you have a valve amp in the first place. Maidenman is saying, I found the Spark very fizzy with any sort of distortion, just my opinion. I never experienced that, to be honest. What I did find disappointing about the Spark was, at the time, I was doing a lot of recording with plugins. And one of my favourite amp plugins was Positive Grid Bias Amp. And I assumed, because Positive Grid Spark, Positive Grid Bias Amp, that the sounds would be comparable, but they just weren't. The JTM 45 sim in Bias Amp is just one of the most gorgeous kind of edge of breakup / clean tones that you will ever hear. But the JTM 45 in in the Spark app was just no, it was nothing like it. It was very disappointing. Cylon Hybrid saying Dougal is doing good. Yes, he is. He's currently downstairs. I will bring him up on the live stream, but he's always asleep at this time on a Friday, or usually, which means that if you wake him up, there's consequences. It's you learn to appreciate with a dog like Dougal. You learn to appreciate when he's asleep and not do anything to basically disturb that, because he's got two speeds: asleep and full-on Tasmanian devil. So when he's in the asleep state, you tend to kind of just think, okay, let's have half an hour of peace and quiet. Let's have a look, see what else we got. Rob Ball is saying chicken curry. Indeed, it is tonight, mate. Yes, there's a big batch of it in the freezer. I do like about a gallon of it in one go, and I spend a day cooking and kind of cooking off batches of chicken and making the sauce. And I'll put the recipe up online at some point. But it is chicken curry tonight, and it's a takeaway tomorrow. And my lovely wife is making sweet and sour meatballs for Sunday evening's repast. So that is that is the menu for the weekend. Anyway, I'm lagging behind. I'm only on my second beer. Dear me, I've got some catching up to do. Let's see how far down number 3 I can get in the last 10 minutes. John Mack is saying, R.I.P. Randy Meisner, the US bassist and singer who co-founded the rock band Eagles, has died at the age of 77. Have you already covered this? Briefly, at the top of the stream, mate. Yes, we did raise a glass to Randy. And, as I said at the time, listen to, what was it, Take It to the Limit this morning. As I was reading my morning paper and drinking my cup of coffee, I read about Randy this morning in the paper, and immediately I have Spotify on every morning, and just went and put Take It to the Limit on. What a voice that guy had, and he was very, very insecure about his voice. It's which I suppose that is. I guess not maybe understandable, but it's the kind of thing that many people who are good at things often have that kind of insecurity about are they good enough, and apparently that was the case with Randy. But what a voice, and what a band, the Eagles. Not entirely sure about that sort of comeback album that they did. When was that? Because they did the Hell Freezes Over thing, didn't they? Which was, I guess, sort of an unplugged kind of thing. That was okay. I've got to admit, I didn't, once I'd sort of listened to it a few times, I don't think I listened to it much after that. And of course, it was Timothy B. Schmidt by then, anyway, wasn't it? Because Randy quit after Hotel California, didn't he? But I tried listening to their later output. What was that? Was it Long Road Out of Eden or something? I think that was the title of the album. I might be mistaken. And it just wasn't. It was just all a little bit overproduced and I guess a bit bland, I thought. When you get those albums by an artist or a band that you really, really love, and you're prepared to cut them a bit of slack and listen to the album a few more times, and your friends ask you, don't you, what do you think of the new album by such and such? And you think, oh yeah, slow burn, it's getting there though, and but that was very much the case with that album. I tried loving it and just couldn't quite get there. Let's have a look. What are your thoughts on Humble Pie live at the Fillmore? Oh, it's a belter, isn't it, mate? Yes, indeed. I did a video, it's probably about a year ago now, about, I think it was called Excuse My Ignorance, about bands that I'd kind of ignored, that hadn't been on my radar, that I knew about but didn't really know. And, you discover them and you think, my God, this is brilliant. How have I not listened to this before? And Humble Pie were, one of those bands. So, very much, I'm very big fan of Humble Pie. And again, what a sad loss, Steve Marriott. That's, when was that? That was that 1990? It's one of the great rock voices, I think. We talk about, I guess, the iconic rock singers, Robert Plant, Paul Rodgers, those kind of voices that are up there. Graham Bonnet, I guess, is another one. But I don't think, Mr. Marriott ever got truly the recognition he deserved. Let's have a look. See what else we've got to talk about in the dying minutes. Maria Davies is saying Desperado is a great song. It is. And, which you called Linda Ronstadt did a cracking version of that as well. And the Classic Rock Show, when I went to see them back in March, they did a fantastic version of the Linda Ronstadt arrangement. But it is just such a fantastic song. It's one of those songs. It's, to me, how Yesterday got covered by like so many different people. Everybody from, obviously the Beatles did Yesterday, obviously, but it got covered a lot. Desperado is one of those songs that I'm surprised not many other kind of artists did. Because it's just a classic kind of almost Great American Songbook kind of song. It's the sort of song I would have liked to have heard Sinatra do a version of, because I think it would have suited, his singing style, his voice, or any of those guys, any of the sort of crooner type guys, I think would have made a really good version of Desperado. Let's have a look. Angel Martinez again said, any thoughts on Ronnie James Dio? Yeah, those first Rainbow albums, he was great, but I didn't like, I was never a fan of the band Dio, I got to tell you. It's I like his voice, but I just didn't like his solo material. So there you go. Anyway, chaps, we're into the dying seconds of the game. So, and I'm starting to get a bit peckish, and there is a sense of urgency because what goes in has to come out. So I'm going to wrap things up there. Thank you once again, each and every one of you, for turning up and watching a fat bald lad talk absolute cobblers for an hour. It's been a blast, and I'm going to keep on doing it till you're sick of me. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.